Hello, and welcome to Writing Women, the show where I talk about the women who exist in fiction and the people who created them. This week, I decided to see what all of the discourse was about and watch Netflix's Purple Hearts. If you've seen it, I'm sorry you had to watch that. And if you haven't, buckle up, this movie is wild. Constant viewers will remember that I was in the Navy and got out about 4 years ago. Though my political worldview changed a lot when I got out, this movie really interested me because of its premise. I usually do this at the end, but I wanted to try adding something up front this time as well. If you enjoy what I do here at all, I would really appreciate it if you considered going over to patreon.com/writingwomen and maybe toss me a couple bucks. It helps me keep the bills paid so I can focus a little bit more on producing the stuff that I do here. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into Purple Hearts. Thoughts and prayers, I'm gonna need them. We open on a bar scene where the main character Cassie does a rendition of every white person at a bar's favorite song, Sweet Caroline. But she does it in that way that's really popular with indie singers. I've heard it described by some people as singing in cursive. Cassie is introduced as a fiery liberal, and her love interest/opposition is a seemingly straight-laced Marine. The boys show up at Cassie's bar, and one of the group is her close friend Frankie. All of them are fairly fresh in the Corps and are gearing up for their first deployment. Both Luke and Frankie don't do or say anything when Cassie is immediately sexually harassed by one of the Marines in their group. They roll their eyes and do a kind of good-natured, come on man, haha, knock it off kind of thing. Lest you think this is a reflection on the character of any of the other people present, don't worry, Luke will follow Cassie around and privately tell her how much of a dick he thinks the other guy was being. We just don't confront our bros when they exhibit aggressive behavior toward women, though. For no reason at all, I'll just mention that the rate of SA in the Marine Corps is pretty high. The rate of SA in all branches, for that matter, is pretty high. And that's just talking about people who were victimized by other service members. Honestly, this entire opening scene is just incredibly triggering to me, and the fact that I know this story is meant to be a romance really rubs me the wrong way. She's gonna fall in love with this dude who wouldn't even stand up for her when his friend was harassing her. He's the honorable Marine, but he won't even stop his friend from harassing women. I'm going to dig into this point one more time before I move on from this scene. There's a military-wide effort to educate people on SA to try and reduce the astronomically high rates of it. They hold frequent mass trainings where they explain consent over and over again. And the military likes to pretend that it works when any fly on the wall could tell you that most people at those trainings are at best tuning it out and at worst actively angry at being made to go. It's not an individual thing done as punishment, it's something every single service member will attend frequently, multiple times a year. This includes people who have been the victims of SA and struggle through day-long panic attacks, sitting in a room surrounded by angry dudes, grumbling about how none of this is a big deal while being forced to listen to explicit stories about SA or watch lame little skits or speeches about it. People will raise their hand in these trainings when the facilitator asks who here would be comfortable standing up to a friend who was pressuring someone or being aggressive with someone. And then in that exact situation, they just uncomfortably laugh and say, oh, he didn't mean it like that. He was just blowing off steam. That took forever, so here's some rapid-fire story facts. Cassie has diabetes and can't afford insulin. Her mom was an undocumented immigrant for 10 years before gaining citizenship. Luke was a drug addict whose former military police father disowned him before he snuck off to join the Marines to prove he wasn't a waste. Cassie wants to get fake married so she can collect free healthcare and actually get life-saving medication. Her friend Frankie can't do it because he has a longtime girlfriend. Luke initially flips on Cassie because he's Johnny Law and thinks that it's wrong to steal from the government. He changes his mind when his former dealer Jono reminds him that he is owed a lot of money. Luke needs the housing allowance that he will get from being married to pay the dealer guy back. Which, okay, I didn't want to do a plot hole thing for this whole movie, but a lot of this premise doesn't track. Luke is a brand new Marine who probably lives in barracks and is about to go on deployment where he will basically just be collecting money and not really having the chance to spend any of it. So it doesn't really track for him to give in on something he's being so hard about for more money when he's basically going to have tons of expendable income that can just be deposited in Jono's bank account while he's deployed. Also, they're super freaked out about this getting caught thing, but I'll tell you right now, absolutely nobody in Luke's unit would give a fuck. This type of fraud is damn near impossible to prove because there is a legal marriage license involved. So it doesn't matter why a Marine got married, they're still legally married. It's not like the wedding license was faked. Luke could have outright told people they wanted to collect housing allowance while he was deployed, and it would not matter. You can't really prove intent in this situation, especially when Luke and Cassie are super careful to never have any sort of paper trail of their agreement. Their brains can't be subpoenaed in court, and that's the only place this info lives. Luke apparently tells Jono about the deal, so he will be patient for money, but again, there's no paper trail except Jono referencing it in calls to Luke. And besides, it's common enough to be a meme on military humor pages that people fresh out of boot camp will propose to a girl on the second date. This is not as uncommon as the movie tries to make it seem. That's it for the plot hole stuff. For now. The premise of the movie had to get to them being married but hating each other somehow, and it's really interesting that the way they did it was essentially exploring the horrors of capitalism in America and how that system forces people into complicity with the American imperial efforts with the branches of the military. Luke is forced into military service due to family and societal pressure to live up to a legacy after not being able to find real help for addiction that was ruining his life. If we had better safety nets for people who are struggling, they wouldn't agree to become cannon fodder for American imperialism, so we don't have those safety nets and enforce a culture of pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality instead, then conveniently give people the way out of joining the military. It goes for all aspects of the machine, including the ways spouses support the military effort. Capitalism is at the root of Cassie's need to buy into the military system so she can just survive. When you exist within that system long enough, it starts to warp your thinking and encourage you to follow it for fear of what will happen if you don't. Instead of realistically showing how this is fucked up and maybe we should change something about the system we live under, it's used as propaganda for why, if you think about it, maybe the military is great and you should just keep your head down and ignore the horrors it causes across the world because at least if you're supporting it, you can get your insulin. They take every opportunity to make Cassie look like an annoying lib. She's wearing a "the future is female" shirt when she goes to ask Frankie to fake marry her. They give her really good talking points, but dress her up in the trappings of elite white feminism to undercut them and make them seem performative. Which is extra messed up considering she's supposed to be the daughter of an immigrant woman. Then when she eventually morphs into a "we don't talk about politics" conservative apologist, we will see that she was just naive with all of her professed beliefs before. Addressing racist or sexist behavior isn't as important as keeping the peace. In the scene where he yells at Cassie for wanting to defraud the government, Luke looks like such a fucking narc and is definitely racist. He makes shitty comments about her mom's immigration status. We learn that Cassie's mom was abused by Marines that she dated for Cassie's whole childhood. And it's implied that this is why she hates the military. So this is going to be a Luke is one of the good ones and changes her mind about them kind of thing. Cassie and Luke have a shady meeting in a diner to discuss their illicit plan after Luke realizes he can pay off Jono this way. When they're talking here, she points out to him that she has an ethical code after he insults her for not respecting the law. And this is such a beautiful anti-conservative messaging. Dude is calling her a lawless heathen while hiding the fact that he's trying to pay off a drug money debt. He is justified in breaking the law by scamming Uncle Sam, but her reasons aren't as valid, even though it's for life-saving medication. It's very anti-choice politician pays for his mistress to have an abortion vibes. Cassie tries to go casual for the courthouse wedding, but Luke makes her change. He sees a tattoo on her shoulder and makes a snide joke about it and asks if it says socialism now. Which is just super rich because they're literally doing this whole thing so they can both benefit from socialism. The military is the only socialist structure the United States government really allows to exist because they know how effective it is at caring for people's basic needs, and they want that reserved for people they are throwing into the meat grinder. If it was widely available, nobody would be willing to be thrown in anymore. They do their fake marriage, and Frankie lets them borrow the ring that he bought for his own girlfriend. He intends to propose after deployment, but wants Cassie to keep the ring safe for him while he's away. My theory is the only reason they made these dudes Marines instead of any other branch is because it had to be Army or Marines so they could do the IED explosion plotline with minimal suspension of disbelief for an intended civilian audience. Other branches deploy on the ground like that, but they aren't the ones the average person thinks about when picturing people caught in an IED explosion. Of the available options, the Marines' dress uniforms are undeniably way cooler than the Army. Sorry soldiers, they got this one on you. It's okay though, they also have an awful reputation for consistently brutalizing the women of other countries, so maybe it's okay to let them have something good. If you want to really ruin your day with the Marine Corps specifically, check out the history of Marines' behavior toward women and children in Okinawa. They really nailed the awful shit that Marines say off the cuff. I've seen this play out so often. Woman, be it civilian or fellow service member, speaks up about a fucked up thing that somebody says and is told she is ruining everyone's time. At least Cassie points out that the one who actually ruined everybody's time was the dude making racist remarks, but of course, bro code. Luke can't call out his bud. Just tell her in private that he knows it's fucked up bravado and let his friend's aggressive and rude behavior go unchecked. This movie is so long. The two have a bit of a one-night stand on their wedding night, which is also the night before the boys deploy. Cassie gets her military ID and everything's sorted and sees them off. This is one of the most effective sections of the movie. As a photographer, I've had to attend a lot of departures, and if there's one thing that will make you feel any sort of sympathy for an invading military force, it's watching people say goodbye to their parents, their children, their spouse. It's really hard to not feel what everyone around you is feeling, and they really nailed it in this scene. I may hate this movie, but I do have to give it up for how effective it is at propagandizing. They start video calling and writing emails and telling each other about their backstory and their likes and their dislikes. It's all very cute and would for sure be very terrible if the actors didn't pull it off so well. You almost stop thinking about how the one dude sexually harassed her when he amps everyone up when she calls and asks her to sing them a song. Cassie gets a spot at a music festival because of her song that she wrote for Luke. She's getting looked at by a label. She performs the song for them after one of the guys in Luke's unit is injured. Then suddenly, Luke is also injured in an IED explosion and is being sent home. Cassie doesn't find out till she sees Luke in the hospital that her friend Frankie died in the same explosion. She frantically contacted Luke's family, who had no idea about her existence, so they would know what was going on. Luke's hard-ass dad, who didn't even know he enlisted, is characteristically an asshole about him being injured as well. Luke freaks out thinking his dad is going to figure everything out and turn him and Cassie in for fraud, which, again, it's not fraud if there's an actual marriage license involved. You are married. You are living as a married couple. Intent here cannot be proven. Sorry, this whole setup is really getting under my skin. I've asked around to a few friends and gotten unanimous agreement that this setup would probably never even make it to court-martial if reported by anyone. Luke has to do extensive physical therapy for his leg before he can walk again. Cassie and his brother get him a service dog, and after an initial freakout where he accuses them of pitying him, he accepts the dog. Drug dealer guy is calling and threatening both him and Cassie now, and I really don't get why. Like, I get the in-story reason is because Luke stops paying the money, but I don't understand why he stops. He's still getting his housing allowance and isn't spending any of it on actually housing himself and his spouse. Even if he was, he's not really spending his actual paycheck, just the housing allowance portion. And when he finally pays Jono the money, he does it all at once in a lump sum, so why did he stop paying him in the first place? I usually try not to question a character's actions if they're at least consistent. What I would do in a situation is not necessarily what an established character would do. But him stopping his payments to his old dealer is inconsistent with how freaked out he was about anybody finding out about this in the first place. What's really important to remember for all of you who have never experienced life within the military is he's still getting a paycheck this entire time. He's still active duty. He hasn't been discharged. He would still be getting his regular paycheck plus the housing allowance that he gets for being married. It would be the same amount of pay he was getting before, maybe a little bit less because he wouldn't be getting combat pay. All of his medical care is part of the package. He's not paying out of pocket for any of this physical therapy or anything. Maybe they paid for the service dog, but that's it. It doesn't really track that he suddenly can't pay back his debt when his expenses aren't that different than what they were before he left. And then when he does pay off the full amount, he pays it all off in a lump sum in an envelope of cash to Jono. So it does not make sense why he stopped the payments in the first place. Well, I mean, it does if you just think about the fact that it just needed to get to where it went. And so they made him stop making the payments even though it didn't make sense. Cassie starts writing another song about how she hates that she's falling in love with him. They have a lot of nice couple moments and even start sharing Cassie's bed. Unfortunately, Jono breaks into Cassie's mom's house as a message to Luke, and Marine Boy goes and beats the hell out of him, pays him off, and threatens him if he ever goes near Cassie or her mom again. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, and Jono goes to Cassie's mom and spills all the beans. In this fight, Cassie is like super right to be mad. She tells Luke it's time for their divorce, and he has basically the funniest line ever. She's rightfully angry that he hid all the drug dealer stuff from her and put her mom in danger by giving someone like that the info on their fake marriage. and he blows up about how not every guy who enters her life is some awful dude who she can't trust. But like, dude, she just had it proven to her that she cannot trust you, so shut up. The really insidious thing about this movie is that it isn't what it's marketed as, where two people see past their differences and meet in the middle and fall in love. It's Luke staying exactly the same in his beliefs, and the only thing that changes is that he now loves Cassie. Cassie learns to keep quiet on her own beliefs because her morals aren't as important as being in love. Luke lies to her from the jump, and in the end, it's still put on her to be the one who has to forgive and forget and be the bigger person and come back to him. Luke takes all the blame at his court-martial, but the movie was going to have him found guilty regardless, so it wasn't really a sacrifice on his part. It's reassuring liberal women who get with conservative men and just tell everyone they don't talk politics, that it's totally fine to do that, and that your beliefs aren't as important as keeping the peace in your relationship because he's going to constantly invalidate your beliefs at every turn. What a bleak life. I don't necessarily buy the outcome of the court-martial anyway. We hear Luke's lawyer say something about him having a chance to win it, and yeah, they do. If Luke hadn't opened his mouth, they couldn't have proven anything. They have a sworn statement from Jono, and that's it against them. They have months and months of very loving and cute-sounding emails. All of Luke's guys seeing them be cute together. Cassie's songs that she literally wrote for him and got a record deal for. I don't even buy that the dealer went to authorities about it because there is no gain for him. He quite literally gains nothing and risks his own skin to do so. The only evidence he can provide that he knows it's fake is his statement and no physical proof without revealing his illegal activities. Those activities would also make him a super not credible witness. Then, in a matter of weeks, Luke is at court-martial. I reported an essay, and it took about 5 months for that court-martial to happen. Maybe the government just cares more about its money than it does essay cases. Shocking if true. Now, I'll tell you why it probably had to end this way with the not quite believable snitching and the sudden court-martial that ends in 60 seconds and him getting discharged. Also, the 2-hour runtime for this movie that could easily be cut down by about 20 to 30 minutes without the court-martial stuff. With the amount of support they probably had from the military in filming this, the military also gets final say on the script. The United States military has whole departments that exist to assist in film and TV shows. They can require changes in the script to make sure they are shown in a beneficial way, or make sure that people committing military crimes are shown getting properly punished. So the whole plot of the movie had to resolve with the Marine being honorable above everything else, but also getting punished for violating the UCMJ, because we need to let the viewers know that yes, you can be punished for this, and it definitely, for sure, will happen in case any of you young bucks out there are thinking that this is a no consequences aspirational story. They close the movie with Cassie telling Luke their marriage is real, and he goes off to do his prison sentence. When he gets out, we have a nice little montage of them walking together happily and being for real married. Now that it's over, I have to say that I do disagree with a lot of the things I've seen people saying online about this movie. By the end of the movie, she hasn't become a conservative or anything, which has been a lot of what I've seen people saying specifically on TikTok. Though they call her a liberal in the beginning of the movie, I would consider her a bit more of a leftist early on. Kind of a vague leftist who just believes in general progressive things. She probably voted for Bernie, and she is more than willing to start fights over her beliefs. By the end of the movie, though, she has become a liberal. She's more concerned with maintaining the status quo and paying lip service to progressive ideas to keep the peace in her relationship. By then, it's more of a hobby of progressivism versus an actual belief system that you live your life by. It's still lame and disappointing, but it is distinctly different from going full conservative. Turning into a liberal is almost worse to me in this kind of story. This mirrors really common relationship dynamics in real life, and it reassures women that it's okay to stop fighting for your beliefs because ultimately you exist in this big sweeping love story, and what's more important than anything else is the love that you have for this other person. Anyway, I hope you watching this was enjoyable for you because it was painful for me. If you like this video, then like it. As certain as I was about my last video not doing well algorithmically, I am even more so on this one. Every like equals a good long belly rub for Usagi, who has been making some noise during this recording, but not as much as usual, so she deserves them. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me, and most importantly, I do have that Patreon I mentioned in the beginning, where you can support for as low as $2 a month. If I've entertained you even a little bit, I would love to have your support on there. I put out some extra behind-the-scenes stuff, some of my personal writing, including a parody 2-page script of the A24 movie Lamb. I also plan to start doing patron requests and questions now. My patrons are on screen right now, and I love all of you for your support. See you next time, kids.